everyone. I'm Say. And like Valerie said, we're going to do something. Our subject for this piece is going to be very simple. The Eastern Bluebird. Um, for our late summer class here. I just want to double check if everyone can hear me okay. If I need to raise my volume or anything.
We can hear you.
All right, thank you for the confirmation. And I want to give a heads up. I don't know if you see me, I'm sharpening my colored pencils here because some of them are like a little dull. But oh, I actually just broke this. um, we're going to be doing a little bit of mixed media today with colored pencil and watercolor, which is one of my favorite things to do, one of my favorite ways to create art, really. Because for some background about me, I suppose, I'm very, 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 I'll probably show next class. I'm very, very proficient in colored pencil techniques specifically. I've been well practiced in it for, oh my goodness, almost 10 years now. Starting just by like using coloring books and things like that and like really pushing it to the limit. Of course I have my Prismacolor set, but we're not using that today. These were provided by the NORC, and I'm pretty sure if you go at least to Crestwood and ask for a pack of these, we should be able to give you some so you can follow along with me here in class. But I actually really like these colored pencils. I think they're not too soft and they're not too hard, and they still give me a lot of like pigment on the paper. So these are really, really good. And like I said, you can get them for free at the library. We provide them so that you guys can most easily follow along. If you've been an attendee of any of my previous classes or one of my previous classes, we used these colored pencils for my skin tone coloring tutorial, which is still one of my favorite lessons that I've done. I think it was really fun and informative to do. So I'm just sharpening some colors here to get prepared. We're going to be painting a bright and happy Eastern Bluebird, sort of on like a blossom tree, it seems like, in the picture that I have here. I'm going to take out some more colors and set them off to the side. Set them off to the side over there. I have my 16 color watercolor palette. You can use an 8 color palette just the same. You just have to do a little bit more mixing to get like this color scheme is pretty much the same as this one, and this color scheme is just all of these colors, like all of the tertiary colors on this side mixed together. So yeah, I don't know if I want to go in with pencil. I find it very hard to get it to show up on camera, and I'm sort of past the point of needing it personally. I will just use my pencil to draw a square. That's gonna be, I don't know if you've noticed, like in the last few classes, I've been using tape. But when I did this one, I didn't have any tape, and I kind of liked the way it turned out, like the edges. So I'm gonna try to do that again. And you can definitely see the lines that I just drew here. It's not, my lines are not straight, they're not perfect, but they're good enough for me. So I guess, yeah, we can see my pencil, so let's see. we basically have clusters of different forms here I'll talk about. So the first one is like this cluster of blossoms. Then we have this one down here, this one. These are more so in the background, out of focus, and then our main blob is our bird, our birdie. So cute and sweet. So I really like to abstract the shapes that I'm working with. So I'm just drawing a circle like where each blossom cluster is. So I have 4 there, and then I have my big bird in the middle there. It was like an oval, like, very much like that, right? And then the other thing, I want to make sure we have our lines for our stem. This is not, I will say over and over again, this is not to be perfect or perfected in any way, shape, or form, at all, except I will move this slightly over. That line was so dark. Oh my gosh. And then we're gonna do like that. Because this branch here is really important in like anchoring our bird. It sort of falls in between its 2 legs. So this really gives us like a reference point on like where to draw the bird's like belly and everything. So I'm gonna start the bird's right leg sort of grasps where this branch comes out right there. So I'm just going to draw that in. And then this leg over here will come out straight for a little bit and then almost perpendicular to this line, but not quite, not perpendicular, parallel to this line, but not quite. It'll be at a slightly different angle. We got the claws there, or talons. I don't know actually. Are they talons if the bird is this little? I don't know anything about bird anatomy. Maybe I should have done my research. I do love how like fat and compressed this bird is. In my reference picture. Its head doesn't really like, it doesn't really have like a pronounced neck or anything. Like some birds have like very obvious necks, but this guy is just like a little lump. It's a little feathery friend. So I sort of followed this curve here. I think we're gonna finish the underbelly first and then go on to the top. But basically it pretty much follows the like that. And then we have sort of in the middle of this mass is the wing, which is going to be like the blue part of the bird. And it's almost like in layers in a way. So that's its tail feather that I just drew. And it's converging with the branch here. And this is its wing, which has like a lump here. And then it almost goes to a peak, but it's rounded because it's soft. And then now that we have that wing sort of like mapped out right there, I can finish the tail feather, which will be mostly parallel line to the first line we drew, and then end in a sort of diagonal line like that right here. And then at the same space where the wing curves in, I'm gonna have like a lump here, and then that's gonna shape our head. So he's so, looks like a peep. You know those like peep marshmallows? So squishy and cute. The beak is very short. It's like and it's almost curved. It's very thin, very short, and very curved. And it's, when we get into the coloring process, you'll see that it sort of like blends into the face of the bird, instead of having like, usually we draw birds with like a sharp end to the beak, like a toucan, for example. But this bird has a very gradual shift between its like face and its beak. And then we got the eye. I don't know, we're just gonna place it right there. It's good enough for me. um Completely, yeah, we're totally good enough for me. Let's start with paint. I don't have much time to waste. Let's just jump right into it. So I'm gonna start with the background, and I'm just gonna do straight up like yellow, I think. A very light yellow wash over the whole background. Because I want this painting to be really like warm and sunny. So, you know, maybe I'll even like blend with this orange color right here. This is not quite orange, it's yellow orange. So it'll just add like a tinge of orange. My color, and of course I'm mixing that on the clear cover. Of my palette. And this will also help tie in our color story, because the belly of the bluebird is a similar like light orange. So we want this piece to be really cohesive. So I'm literally just going to go over everything with this color as our base, like, except for the bird itself. The entire background is going to be this color. And I'm going to use my water right there. I'm going to use my water to spread this around. And so the reason why I like to use watercolor and colored pencil together is because I find that colored pencil gives me a lot of vibrancy and a lot of detail, like depending on how sharp the pencil is, but it takes forever to cover a large surface of paper with just a colored pencil. I mean, like, I have spent hundreds of hours doing only color pencil pieces, because I just have to go back and forth with the little pencil like over and over and over with like so many layers. Um, and I feel like watercolor just kind of lets me skip all that. Like if this were just a colored pencil piece, I'd have to sit here and like, with my little pencil, it's worth it for like, I've certainly done it for portfolio pieces before or just like for fun even. But like in art like this where I'm trying to get it done in a timely manner, or even like in my design work at school when I'm trying to illustrate a concept relatively quickly but still with a level of like finesse. Oh God, what is that? What is that in my water? Get out. Okay. I find that this is like really good. So you got this like yellow warm feeling to the piece. Got a smudge there. And now our paper is all shiny. So we've covered everything except for the bird itself. Which we are going to do like right now, I guess. I'm just going to fill in some areas with water, clear water, or as clear as can be anyway. So I'm using the same water that I was using for this, and you can see it's kind of yellow, so but that's fine. So it has like a very slight yellow tinge to it, but that's okay. I think that sort of thing becomes a problem for me once your water is like muddy. This is like very clearly yellow water, but if you have like gray water or something, like it will definitely make your watercolor a lot more dull appearing. So another thing I want to do while this background is still damp is I want to go in with this like really banged up brush I have here. It's a flat brush, but it's like it's like slightly frayed. And I'm going to go in with this yellow green. And work on the background a little bit. Mainly up in this left corner here. So I'm just going to stipple or even press like a little harder. And my brush is a little dirty, but that's okay because this is a background. That's fine. These are like the leaves of the tree in the background, Very quick, very like sudden movements almost. Stippling has a different effect depending on the type of brush you use. I've used this technique before, but usually with like more pointed brushes. This is a flat brush and it's a little frayed, like I said, so it's making different shapes than it would have if we were to use like a pointed brush instead, and like a nicer, newer quality brush as well. So I'm gonna keep this green mostly on the side of things. On the left side of things, it's going to seep over to the right at the top here, but this lower right hand corner I'm going to keep free because that is going to be more pink in the end. And if you know color theory, you know that pink is a tint of red, and red and green are opposite colors. So if I were to mix them together while they're still wet, it would get a little muddy, a little too much. And we don't want that. We want this piece to be very bright and vibrant and cute and fun. So I'm just gonna do like a little bit, like some sparse stuff, very light. You almost see like the wetness of what I'm applying more than the actual color. But yeah, that's our background right there. And I think now we can get in with some of this orange on the belly. So I'm taking this brush here about this size, and I'm dipping in straight to the yellow orange that I have over here on my left side. And we're just going to spread this out. Starting in the middle of the belly, because that is where the color is most concentrated. And it sort of fades away even like towards the bottom here. But again, of course, we're doing this very, very lightly. And this is off of one dip into the color. I'm not reapplying. The only thing I'm reapplying is water when my paper gets too dry to move the pigment around. And I'm also using this as an opportunity to define like the shape of the bird's face. I think what I really like about this piece is that it has like a heavy use of complementary colors. So the background is green and pink, and the foreground is this like orange-bellied bluebird. Orange and blue are also complementary colors. So it's just like this really bright, fun, vibrant, expressive thing. I'm gonna add a little orange to the beak here. And I'm going to put some white on my palette. Not every watercolor palette has white, because it's not necessarily needed per se, but I do want it to sort of like, you could use this, you could do this with water too. To just because at the very bottom here, the feathers become white instead of orange. So yeah, we just want to do that. And then paint the blue. Come on, let's go. We're painting the blue. I'm dipping into this light blue on my palette here. Just like that. Very, very saturated, very striking. Woo! Just filling in our pencil lines here at the top. And of course, because watercolor is translucent, we can still see our pencil lines through the paint, which is a good thing in this case. We're going to leave the edge of the bluebird's like head blank because there's light reflecting off of it. And then here where the yellow, where the orange and the blue meet, it does get a little like gray. But we'll worry about blending that with our colored pencils. So for now, I just want my brush strokes to sort of like mimic what the feathers would be like, in a sense. And I think I'm gonna lift some of this paint up. I think it's like a little bit too opaque, like just a little bit. So I'm gonna take a piece of tissue paper, Bounty paper towel, dip it in water, and like just lift up some of that paint here, which is kind of doing some of the blending for me already, which I didn't anticipate, but hey, that's quite good. It's quite good. Let's just like reapply some water. And some paint that got a little unintentionally lifted, you know. We're done painting the bluebird for now. We're going to go in with this pink in the background. We're not going to use a flat brush. We're going to use this big fluffy brush that I have here. And I'm actually not sure. I used red paint my first time around, but here I have like a magenta all the way at the bottom. So I'm just going to take this test strip and see, like take a test strip of paper and see which color I prefer, or if I even have to do any mixing. Definitely going to use the magenta. That red is, it's giving Christmas. I don't know. It's not quite right. Anyway, where did I put my brush? Here it is. So I'm just going to wipe some of that red back off because we don't need that. We need magenta. We're going to apply it very lightly in the stipples. Like very wet. In our forms here that we made. This is one of my favorite ways to paint. I find it so relaxing. And we're really going to carry a lot of this. I want a lot of water on my brush for this to get like a really round brush stroke onto the paper. And so this is really where we're getting that like that pink in the background that I was talking about earlier. And it's especially the strongest like right underneath the bird's tail feather. Let's refocus that camera. This is already looking like really, really beautiful and fun. I'm very much a fan. I think one of the things I'm going to do differently with this piece that I didn't quite do the first time around is I'm going to leave the background just purely watercolor instead of a combination. Well, I guess besides the branches, but like I really like the way this is looking with everything, or I'll just outline everything in colored pencil. Because here, as you can see, I like did some cross hatching in the further backgrounds, but I think I'll leave that alone. And I think the other thing I want to do, where did I put this? I put it here. I want to get some brown in with this magenta. And add a little bit. In the background there. In the background in some areas. To sort of add like another color dimension. Let's see, like, yeah, like we can do right there. I think our background is looking great so far. It's like our paper is quite wet, but that's okay. So I think the only other color I need for my colored pencils was white. So I'm just gonna make sure I have that out of my 24 set. But basically, I have a array of like blues and some pinks and some oranges, a yellow in there. I have a brown. I have two greens. We're mainly going to be working with, oh, you know what else I need? I need this gray. We're mainly going to be using this on the Bluebird itself. We're not going to do too much with the background besides the what is it called? The branches, like I said. I keep wanting to call them twigs. I don't know why. But basically, I want to make sure that the places that are supposed to be the lightest remain that way. It would be super, super good if I could take like some gouache and do it that way, but we're not using gouache today. All right, so I think a good place to start is our tail feather. So I'm just coloring over my pencil lines to hide them now that we're moving on to colored pencil. Of course, if you draw with your pencil lightly, you won't really have to worry about that too much. I drew very heavy, so yeah. So what we want to do is I'm using this like light blue here, and I want to sort of color in straight lines back and forth in the parallel to the lines that define the tail feather. Because that'll give it that like texture that it needs, that it's missing. You can already see, let's zoom in here. Let's zoom into our birdie and really focus up so that we can see what we're doing. Because we're getting more detailed now. Very quickly, with medium pressure, I'm not holding it like this, but I'm also not holding my pencil super far back. I'm holding it like at a good distance, so I'm applying medium pressure. Depending on where you hold your colored pencil greatly affects the pressure that also comes with that. So let's see, I have 2 more blues. I always struggle with figuring out which one is darker. That's my light blue. This one's lighter, this one's darker. So that one can go away. So I'm going to use this one up here at the top, very slightly here, where the tail feather meets the wing. I'm going to add some lines in there. And definitely some lines here at the top. We want to add some lines there. Like that. Definitely like shade this more. And then we're going to go in with our darkest blue and sort of really solidify the foundation that we just laid. With our like medium blue. And the same thing will have to happen with the rest of the bird's wings. So actually, I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna sort of like map out the folds of these wings. So this one sort of goes out like that. I have a wing feather here. That one right there. My assumption is that these are just places where like the feather ends, so to speak. Um, yeah, those seem to be like the most darkest spots, like most of them. So I'm going to go back in with our light blue, our lightest blue. And instead of drawing a hard line on the pencil, I'm going to let's see if I can zoom in one more time here. This curve, I'm going to very gently back and forth in a very concentrated area. Go back and forth like this. Because this is sort of where the two colors meet along the wing. But then once we get to the bottom here, that's when the wing is like folding over the belly, right? So we want to amplify that with some straight lines here and then some like fuzzier lines right there. And then we can go back and forth. You know, once we have that outline, fix this line here. It's looking a little green, but that's okay. We're going back and forth, right to left. Up here as well. And really on the entirety of this section here, we're going to be doing that. The paper is still a little damp, so it's a little more difficult to get the right like pigment output. So I do recommend you like wait a little bit for paper to get like more dry. But I don't have that luxury. You can take as much time as you want on this piece. But I gotta wrap it up in like 10 minutes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, let's do that. So for here, again, we're running like parallel to the defining lines of the bird. And then let's start blending here. It's gonna be really strong here at the top and like the base of the head right here. And then it's going to fade out. And I'm going to apply less and less pressure. And to do that, I'm holding my colored pencil further and further away from the tip. But we're gonna go back in and define some of this wing with our darker blues. Again, we have like a dark blue tip, wingtip there, followed by some like feather folds here. We're going to darken this because it's got really green. Which is fine for the side here, but not so much for bottom over here. I'm going in and I'm darkening some of the areas that we have already darkened. This area here, this general area here is a bit darker. So I'm going to shade that in. And I think I'm just going to jump into my darkest blue here. And really deepen and solidify like a lot of these feathers that are folded over each other. So you see like the layering with I mean, like I would say that both color pencil and watercolor require a lot of layering, but in very different ways. But they do still require patience. I think to get effective layering with watercolor, you need to wait for each layer to dry or use like a blow dryer, which still is time anyway. I prefer to let mine air dry though. And then with colored pencil, you just have to go back and forth like all the time. I'm sure you can tell here with how much I'm doing it. Like, how many layers do we have? You know, who knows? Let's use this peach color for the belly. I'm gonna at least finish this bird and leave the background as is. Definitely gonna start like marrying the two colors here. And as you can see, this peach is like very much the same color as the watercolor that I used earlier. Almost exactly. I'm really going to bring that into the beak and like into the blue. Moving my pencil like this because I'm following what would be like the feathers of the belly. Which would be nearly impossible to do with watercolor. Water just flows too much to get this level of precision. And the last thing, we're gonna do the beak. So I'm taking brown. And I'm just outlining that. The brown is gonna come like around the eye a bit. And under here. So it sort of like makes everything a bit muddy. And then I'm gonna do the same thing with gray. Because what it really is that this beak is gray. And I'm gonna leave like a stripe of yellow here in the center of the beak. And we're going to outline this eye here. I'm gonna draw a catch light. A catch light, if you don't know, is where your eye catches the light and has like a little white sparkle almost. We're just gonna blend that out a bit more. Because like I said, it's really not an abrupt like here's the beak and here's the rest of the bird kind of thing. It's really like a gradual shift almost. I'm gonna add some orange to that, some deep orange to the belly over here. And I think that's time.
Hard to believe an hour went by. It's amazing, Say. Thank you so much for guiding us in drawing this beautiful bluebird.
Yeah. I guess what's missing is the background. Our sticks, our branches. We drew them with pencil. I would, now that the background's dry, I would go over it with like brown watercolor, that thickness. But besides that, it's pretty much that's our bird, yeah.